So today for practice, I'd like to invite us to frame this Jewish mindfulness meditation practice in a sense as a practice of moment by moment, simply noticing what is true for us. And for those of you who are enrolled in Awareness in Action 2, this might be a little bit of a rerun. I hope it will be reinforcing of the practice that we're doing this week. The reason this is the practice for this week is that the Torah portion is Parshat Lech Lecha. And in that Torah portion, as well as two other times in the book of Genesis, our patriarchs, Abraham and Isaac, induce or encourage their partners, their wives, to present themselves not as their wives, but as their sisters, so that harm will not come to them. Without getting into the problematic nature of that, it's those stories, which happened twice in the life of Abraham and Sarah, and once in the life of Isaac and Rebekah, raise the question of what is truthfulness? What is emet? What does it mean to be truthful? There's a lot of conversation among commentators about, well, are they really being untruthful by saying it that way? If you think about it this way, maybe it's true, or even criticism of Abraham and Isaac for encouraging dishonesty on the part of their partners in life. So it raises the question for us about what is truthfulness and what is the role of truth in Jewish tradition. Truth, the Hebrew word is emet, is a foundational principle in Judaism. In fact, it's associated with the very name of God. It's understood as God's seal, is truth. And the word emet, if you go through the traditional Jewish prayer book, you'll see it all over the place, usually associated with God and with God's promise of redemption. So there is a redemptive quality to emet, to truthfulness. And at the same time, truthfulness and honesty is not treated in isolation from other values like kindness and compassion and caring. And so there are times when Jewish tradition even encourages us to fudge the truth or bend the truth in service of keeping the peace, of shalom bayit, of keeping peace in the home, of preserving relationships. In other words, it doesn't prescribe brutal, unvarnished honesty, but honesty that is married to other qualities as well, including love and compassion, as I mentioned, etc. So how can we actually practice that in Jewish mindfulness meditation and bring it into our lives? I think we can understand Jewish mindfulness meditation essentially as an emet practice, as a truth practice. I'm going to share very quickly the text for today. Adi, thanks for putting the link in the chat box for this. And the text, the primary text we're basing this on today is our two lines from Psalm 85, verses 11 and 12, and especially verse 12, which is bolded here. Verse 11 is Chesed ve'emet nifgashu, tzedek v'shalom nashaku, which means Chesed, faithfulness or loving kindness, and emet, and truth, nifgashu, will meet each other, will encounter each other. Tzedek v'shalom nashaku, righteousness and peace, shalom, will kiss. It's a beautiful, beautiful phrase. Second line, verse 12, emet me'eretz tismach, truth truth will sprout up, will spring up from the earth, but tzedek mishamayim nishkav. Truth springs up from the earth and justice looks down from heaven. Tzedek looks down from heaven. So there's a beautiful midrash on this, a Jewish legend, an Agadah, that is one of the many midrashim that kind of describes what was the scene when it came to the creation of humankind. And this is the midrash. Rabbi Simon says, when the Holy One of Blessing came to create Adam, the ministering angels formed themselves into groups and parties, some of them saying, let humankind be created. And others said, no, don't let them be created. And they based it on those two verses that we just read. which say chesed and truth met, which can be interpreted as they were in contention with each other. They were arguing with each other, chesed and emet. And righteousness and peace combated with each other. Chesed, according to this interpretation, said, no, let humans be created because they're going to act lovingly. But Emet said, no, don't let them be created because they're going to be full of falsehood. And righteousness, Tzedek, said, let humans be created because they'll be tzaddikim, they'll do righteous deeds. And Shalom said, no, don't let them be created because they're full of strife. They're not peaceful beings. So there is two pairs of arguments, Chesed and Emet, and Tzedek and Shalom, in some tension with each other. So what does God do? God took truth. God took Emet and threw it to the ground. And there's a proof text here from the book of Daniel, Betashlech Emet Arza. Truth was thrown to the ground. The ministering angels said before the Almighty, Master of the worlds, why do you put to shame your chief of court? You know, well, how do you embarrass? Emet is one of your ministering angels, they said. And God says, let truth rise from the ground. Emet me'eretz tismach. This is what is meant by what is written in that psalm we read, verse 12. Emet me'eretz tismach. Truth shall spring from the ground. Truth shall sprout from the ground. So there's, just pausing for 1 second there. We have this kind of tension of the idea that truth is thrown into the ground. And if we think about the earth, that is a stand-in for materiality. That is that truth, emet, is embedded in material reality under the surface. At the same time, emet me'eretz tismach. Truth is trying to make itself known. It is trying to emerge like seeds that have been sown underground. It is trying to express itself in some way. So I'm going to share one more piece, and this is from Abraham Joshua Heschel in his book Passion for Truth, which is a book about one of the great Hasidic masters, the Kotzker Rebbe. And here's just a couple of snippets from that book of Heschel's understanding of that paradox of truth being embedded and hidden in the earth, and truth wanting to make itself revealed. He writes, truth wants to emerge, but we don't permit it to appear. Deep in every soul, there is a longing to embrace truth, but it has ceased to be felt, nor do many people seem to care. Truth confronts us as a behest, an insistent summons, austere, uncompromising. Are we able to respond to it in the recesses of our souls? Truth is often gray, and deceit is full of splendor. One must hunger fiercely after truth to be able to cherish it. And he says, truth is not within our reach. We can't attain emet completely. That's only in God. No human being can know absolute truth. It's a peak of insight. But we still must strain to attain it. And where does this happen? The test of emet, of truth, takes place only through the soul's meeting. I'm translating confrontation here. Heschel's use of the word confrontation, not as hostile, but as a meeting place where the soul meets God in moments of self-disregard, when we're able to dissolve our ego and our sense of self enough, and we're able to meet ourselves as if God is meeting us, confronting oneself as one is confronted by God. So, in terms of practice, I think what our intention is here is to sit and to simply observe moment to moment the process by which truth is trying to make itself known and the process by which we are trying to perceive the truth, understanding that we can never get it 100% right. Every moment of truth we have is provisional. It's only what we have in the moment. And to do that, we adopt the stance of being purely witnesses, not prosecutors, not defense attorneys, no opinion, simply gathering information, just trying to observe what is true right now. So our invitation for practice today is to take a position that's comfortable for you. And again, take a moment to decide for yourself how you'd like to be practicing today, whether you'd like to sit facing the screen or away from the screen. Maybe you need a break. If it's comfortable for you to close your eyes, let your eyelids close, or to allow if you have your eyes open, you can just shift into soft focus. You can try that. Or you can look out the window at the sky. But primarily what we're doing is bringing our attention and our awareness inward. We may have been looking out around us all day, but right now we're shining a light inside us. And the question for us right now to consider is just this. What is the truth of my experience right now? What is true about what's happening in my body? Do I feel any pain or discomfort or achiness? Where do I feel that? What is the nature of it? What's the extent of that? Do I feel tired, fatigued in my body? If so, where do I notice that? Where do I hold my fatigue and my tiredness? If I feel restless energy in my body, where is that showing up? Maybe I'm tapping my toes or moving my fingers or fidgeting. And here, there's no right answer at all. It's just what's true right now, what's really happening. Not what was happening yesterday or this morning or earlier, or what will happen, but what's happening right this second. What truth is making itself known? What truth is emerging from my body? What's it trying to tell me? It might be the truth that actually there's no particular pain or ache. Maybe something we could notice is that we don't have a toothache right now. Or our back is actually feeling pretty good today. What's the whole truth and nothing but the truth about our bodies? And what is true about my emotional life right now? How do I feel right now, today, in this moment, as I'm sitting here? Do I feel grateful? Do I feel resentful? Do I feel happy? Do I feel grief? Do I feel guilty? Do I feel ashamed? Do I feel sadness? Do I feel joy? Or do I feel numb? I actually finding it hard to notice how I actually feel. And do I have a judgment about any of the above? Do I have a judgment about how I'm feeling or my inability to feel? Can I let that judgment go and just recognize the truth without justifying it, without pushing it away? Can I just let myself experience and notice my feelings and all their complexity? And what is true about my mind state right now? What's the weather like up there? Are the skies clear, overcast, mostly cloudy, partly cloudy? My mind foggy? Is it stormy? Is it jumping around? Is it like a thunderstorm or a hurricane? Or is it settled and clear? Again, no right answer here, no preferred answer, just what's true for you to own your own truth. Truth might be that I have no idea what the weather is today in my mind. And that's the truth. And finally, what is true about the state of your spirit or your soul right now? Is it hiding? Is it afraid to come out? Is it crying out for attention, or is it looking really happy that you are noticing it? Just noticing your aliveness, the energy that's animating your breathing right now, animating the sensations in your body and generating thoughts and the firing of the neurons throughout your nervous system. The spiritual energy that enlivens you right now. What's the state of your spirit? What's the state of your soul? And we'll just sit now for 5 minutes more in silence, just noting what is true for each one of us, embracing our truth. Last minute of our practice together. The eyes still closed, the gaze still soft. Holding our intention to be Dorshe Emet, seekers of truth. Whether the truth is pleasant or unpleasant, to have the capacity to notice and be with what is true without pushing it away, without denying. Be as authentic as we're capable of being as human beings, and to see ourselves as God sees us. And to experience that meeting as suffused with chesed, with loving kindness. That's truth spring forth from the earth and from us. You're invited to slowly allow your eyes to open if they've been closed. Bring your attention outward, back to the group. One of the ways we can bring that practice into our lives is by being present and by bearing witness to the truth of grief, pain, loss of part of others, part of our community. So I invite those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site, if you'd like to share the name or names of those you're honoring or remembering today in the chat box, you're welcome to do so. And for each of us to bear witness to the truth of those losses and the consequences for those who survive. Invite those who are reciting Kaddish to rise with me in body or in spirit. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Shemei Rabbi, Yamad Yivra, Yurte, Yamlich Malchute, B'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chaye Dechol, Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Ubizman, Kariv, Vimru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mibarak Yolam Olamei Barak Ishtabach Ba'ar Yitmash Say Yitadar Yitaleh Yitalal Made Kucha Kol Birchata V'Shirata Shechata V'Nechemata Da'amiram B'Yalma Amen. Rabbi Shmaya Malenu V'Yakol Yisrael V'Mru Amen. Shalom B'Roma Ya'aseh Shalom Malenu V'Yakol Yisrael V'Yakol Shvei Tevel V'Emru Amen.
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 Friends, thanks for joining us today for practice. As we should have mentioned at the outset, by the way, that we will not be meeting tomorrow for a live session. The IJS staff is actually in the midst of an all-staff retreat. Tomorrow we'll be doing a session, training session on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So no live session tomorrow, but there will be one on Friday. So for tomorrow, we encourage you to make use of the many meditations that are archived on our YouTube channel. There are older ones that are on our Facebook page. All the sessions, of course, are always recorded and posted there, so they're always available. We hope you'll avail yourself of that opportunity. We will be back on Friday at the usual time at 12:30 with a live session. For those who are leaving, I'm going to wish you well. a good day full of blessings. For those who'd like to stay on, I'm happy to take questions or just have a few minutes for sharing reflections on the practice for today. As always, very grateful to you, Adi Stein, for making this look so easy and for holding our text space so beautifully every day, day after day. I'm mostly grateful to all of you for helping to make this possible and create the space for us to practice together as we do. Also want to encourage you, if you have a friend or somebody in your life who you think would benefit or enjoy this practice, to bring them along, to encourage them to sit in one day and to join us. We would love to. Of course, there are many people who participate, but we're always interested in reaching other people who might find this practice helpful, particularly in these times. So please do pass the word along to people you know who you think would be have interest in, who might benefit from it. Okay, I will keep an eye on the chat box and see if there are any questions. One of the reasons we're changing the Zoom link is that we are hoping that we will have fewer technical issues with the chat function. So unfortunately, it can't chat. It seems like people can't chat to the whole group. So please send them either to me or to Adi, who is Institute for Jewish Spirituality on the participant list. Lori writes, I find that I'm very aware to the extreme of the truth of my body, noticing every little pain, etc., but it seems to get in the way of other truths. Can you comment? Oh, well, that's just, here, I mean, as someone who leads meditation sometimes, periodically, as I do, I become aware that even my inclination is to invite people to notice discomfort or tension or constriction, rather than the absence of any of those things. And without generalizing, I think for a lot of us, our minds get drawn, are scanning for what we experience as problematic or as a threat. So even just noticing that that's happening, that's why I threw into the mix, maybe notice today, if you don't have a toothache, maybe it's a good day to notice not having a toothache. Maybe it's a good day to notice the parts of our bodies that are pain-free or not constricted or not full of tension. So in terms of the practice, I think having an awareness of where our mind is taking us and maybe creating a more expansive possibility for noticing beyond that would be the way to go. Eileen Chopnik says, when we say, may their memory be a blessing, what kind of blessing? It's a good question. Hold on. There's got good questions. What kind of blessing? A happy memory, a good example for others, inner peace. All right, Eileen, that's a great question, because that's like a catchphrase. It can become a cliche. May their memory be a blessing. I mean, I can only speak for when I use that. When my intention is, what do we mean by, what do we mean by a blessing? I guess when I think about it is when we call them to mind, when I call someone to mind, may I experience them, people I've lost, as an ongoing presence in my life, as if they're still here, as if their spirit was still here, lifting me up in some way. What is it about my relationship with this person that that helps elevate me in some way? That's how I use it. So it could be a happy, I suppose it could be a happy memory. It could be a good example for others. Could be inner peace. For me, it's all above. And I think there's no one answer to that one. People might have different interpretations of how they use that. But I'm always conscious when I say it that, oh, it is a danger of becoming a cliche, words that don't have so much meaning. So I actually appreciate the opportunity to consider that and spell it out. Lori, my soul is so happy to be noticed, as were my emotions, brain, and body. Feels like the soul is the umbrella of it all, the broadest, kindest, and least distorted witness. But what is it that's witnessing my soul in this? Okay. Second question, I always thought that absolute meant speaking truth kindly without any nuance of lies is our Jewish obligation. So I'm confused by your teaching that fudging for good reasons is okay in Judaism. Okay. All right. Two really good questions. So, so who is the noticer? Who is the noticer? I guess my understanding of that, since I aspire to be a practicing non-dualist, is that there's a paradox there. That my capacity for awareness, for being aware of maybe another way of saying noticing, being aware of, is actually a function of my soul itself. Maybe that's, because I am a separate being, a unique being. I am trapped to some extent in my own dualism, where I construct something in relationship to. But in fact, if I think about it, I guess I would say for myself that my awareness is a manifestation of my own soul. And so in a sense, my soul, my understanding for me is that my soul is helping me observe and notice what is true right now. That is, and meant as an aspect of God or divinity or the divine, is acting through me. It's springing up through me and enabling me to witness and to meet with what is true at the same time. Again, I'm only speaking for myself here. Like that's how I understand that, and I appreciate the opportunity to say it out loud because I don't think I ever really quite thought of it that way. Like this is my soul in action, is helping me do that. As for the second question, I'm not sure. I am not positive we're saying different things. Speaking truth kindly, without any nuance of lies is our Jewish obligation. Okay. Well, let's just say this. In rabbinic tradition, there is this idea that actually saying something that may not be literally true is okay if it's for the sake of promoting peace. And even the classic midrash in this says that, even God stretched the truth, because in the story about Abraham and Sarah, when Sarah finds out that she's going to be pregnant and have a child, she laughs and says, "How could that happen? My husband's so old." And when God relates to Abraham what happened, instead of saying that Sarah was laughing because she thought Abraham was so old, God tells Abraham, Sarah was laughing because how could she have a child? She's so old. So as not to, impede, not to create this disturbance in the relationship between Abraham and Sarah. And that's taken as kind of a basis for the idea of preserving the peace in some way. So in rabbinic Judaism, I think that seems like that's more the mainstream. That is still important to speak truth, but kindly and with an eye towards maintaining a sense of connection among people. And that's really, I think, the art of truth telling in a Jewish concept, is how to do it in a way that, and for those of you who've been involved in the Midot study will recognize this. How do you tell truth with chesed, with loving kindness, that instills a sense of connection and doesn't push away, but also with gevura that sets a boundary that respects the truth of what's being expressed. And in different situations at different times, there might be a little bit more gevura, a little bit stronger boundary, and a little bit less chesed, or vice versa. And each situation calls for a question of integrating all those qualities. 13 new messages. I missed a lot there. Sorry. It can be difficult to differentiate between my emotions and my mind state or my spirit. Can you speak more to how to notice each of these as separate truths? Well, they're all connected and related, of course. Body, emotions, thoughts, spirit, all connected. So how do we tease them apart in some way? I guess the way I think about it, and I'm sure as life goes on, I'll think about it differently each time I think about it. But the way I think about it today is, if I try to break it down, and as I tried to do this in the meditation today, is by just beginning with the body and simply noticing the sensations, and then with emotions, just to try to discern not what I'm thinking about, but what I am feeling. And I might be able to have a better sense about what I'm feeling by taking clues from the body. If my chest is tight, if I'm feeling something in my stomach, or if I'm feeling relaxed, or if I'm feeling energetic, or if I'm feeling down in my body, I can maybe infer from that, or get some clues into, oh, I'm feeling a little sad. Oh, I'm feeling happy, excited. Oh, I'm feeling guilty. Oh, I'm feeling afraid. The mind state, I wasn't thinking so much about the specifics of the thoughts of the mind as much as do I have a sense of that, where my mind is on the spectrum from totally cloudy to really clear. And or are my thoughts racing around? Not what my thoughts are, but I seem to be jumping around. I'm a little bit hyperactive up there, or I'm moving slowly and methodically, and I'm not feeling rushed in my mind in some way. And then, frankly, I don't think I'd ever really done it in terms of noticing our spirit. That was kind of new for me. So I'm not sure what to say about that, other than as we peel the onion and get to the inner layer, get to the core of what's happening, there may be less descriptors available for what's this. I think just noticing that I exist on that plane, that there's a dimension of me that is immaterial, that is beyond the body, beyond the feelings, beyond the mind. Just remembering that, just noticing that. I think someone mentioned this earlier, like, that's incredibly comforting to remember that, to bear witness to my own spirit, my own soul, or just to notice my own aliveness. For some people, that might be a term that feels most accessible. I feel my aliveness. I am alive. I'm just noticing I'm alive right now. I forget that all the time. I forget I'm alive. And I would say, for me, Diana, that's good enough right there. All right, I am happily going to save this chat so I can take a look at the comments and questions. And I'm sorry we didn't get to more, but I'm glad this was rich for you, and I hope it's helpful in terms of just one more way of framing what this practice is and what is Jewish about the Jewish mindfulness meditation here. About that in Isaiah, there's a short phrase where God says to Bnei Yisrael, to the Israelites, "Atem edai, you are my witnesses." In fact, I think that's what's inscribed outside the Holocaust Museum in DC. You are my witnesses. What does it mean to be a witness? to be a reliable witness throughout our lives. That's something that we can practice all day long, so that we can both stand in our truth and represent our truth and speak our truth and respect the truths of others as well, and be seekers of truth. So great to be with you. Wish you all many blessings for the rest of the day and for tomorrow. I'll miss you tomorrow, but we'll see you back on Friday. Thank you all for being here and for your really unbelievable devotion to practice. And thanks again, as always, to you, Ati, for holding us